Yeah, good morning. I'm going to talk today about when life throws you a curve. So, if you look in my videos, the last video that I did was about me having prostate problems. I couldn't pee at all. I couldn't pee to save my life one day. And so I went to the hospital. They put a catheter in. They checked me into the hotel. I was only in for like overnight, and then they released me because I had the catheter in. They were afraid that my kidneys might have been infected. But yes, hi, my name is Kevin, and I talk about issues of being over 60. Issues, problems, good things about being 60. I'm actually 65. I turned 65 the other day. It's been about, since February when my last video came out. In February when I went to the hospital. So today I kind of wanted to touch on the fact that, I had prostate surgery and the whole 9 yards. So let's touch on that real quick. So I had prostate surgery, and I had it in April the 20th at a local hospital here in town. And man, the staff was excellent. I always love hospitals when I'm in there because they're so kind to me. They're so nice. The people, I swear, are made to work in a hospital. They're all so happy, cheerful, helpful. Now some aren't. Those people have chose the career because I guess they saw something in it, but some of them aren't happy, but 99% of them are extremely happy. So I went into the hospital after it had been almost 2 to 3 months of being on a catheter. Could you imagine having a tube, for lack of a better word, coming out of your penis? So inconvenient, sometimes so painful. Some of the doctor staff, like this last time, Las Vegas Urology was who I went to, and I had one nurse that pulled the catheter out. I thought I was going to have some kind of check or something like that. Pulled the catheter out, stuck one in that was way too short. She even knew it. She knew it, but wasn't going to say anything to me. That was horrible. But it was so short that I couldn't arrange it to where it was comfortable. It was painful almost the whole time. I finally had to come up with some engineering skills and came up with a way to reduce the amount of pain from the catheter. Got a lot of people who walk up and down here. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? So yeah, I promise this video isn't for me criticizing people. But anyway, it's so painful. She said, well, we're not going to hook this thing up. And so when I got home, the tube had completely fallen, not out of but the tube that it connects to the bag, completely disconnected because it was tugging on it from the get-go, and she knew it. But anyway, let's change the subject. Back to the hospital we go. And this was on April the 20th. I'd been sitting around, going to appointments. I'm not criticizing the doctors. That could have been a lot quicker. I should have been, had my catheter put in originally back in February, and then had it taken out, had surgery, in March, but it went all the way to April the 20th. And that was me begging them to find a time slot for me to do the surgery. So Dr. Patino, I love you, dude. Turned out amazing. He did amazing work, and I'll tell you more about it here in a second. But yeah, so I went in the hospital, arrived early in the morning like you normally do. And got into prepared for the surgery. I had taken some medicine that I had left over that was anti-anxiety medicine. I told the anesthesiologist, great guy, and I was panicking. I don't like surgeries. And so I was panicking, so I took the medicine before I arrived. And when I got there, I told him again that I had taken medicine. And I said, do you have any kind of, like a cocktail that I read about that would put me out before the surgery? And he said, yeah. So about an hour later, as I'm being wheeled down to the surgery, and I was trying to maintain. And right as we're going down, I said to the anesthesiologist, I saw him talking to his buddy in the hallway. I said, dude, do you have, and I'm sorry I'm out of breath. I'll get to that later, but I haven't been exercising. I'll get to it kind of later, what the reason why and all that. And so he puts it in my whatever it is, the IV. And I remember him handing it to the nurse, and I was immediately gone. Check this out. Check out the mountains back there. Isn't that beautiful? I know you probably can't see the exact same thing that I see. But gone. And when I woke up from the surgery, my wife was laughing at me because I kept saying, oh, you're here. Oh, you're here. So it's the way she put it. And because I was out. And when I finally woke up, they had taken me to my room. You start gaining consciousness. You start gaining, more of yourself. And then pain starts. So, they had me on some medication. I forget what it is. It's two in one. I forget now what it is. I wish I could, maybe I'll put it in the title. But, yeah, that helped a lot. Now, when I got out of the hospital, they didn't give me anything. So I just stuck to ibuprofen and Tylenol. And I'll be honest with you, I always keep marijuana available in my house so that if anything happens like that, it relieves major anxiety. So when I got home, I hadn't even gone in the door yet, and I was smoking, and it relieved the anxiety incredibly. But still back at the hospital, I was starting to recover. I was in the hospital for about 3 days. The staff was amazing, the doctors. And it was just for a recovering person, you can't beat medical people nowadays. They're so kind, so gentle. And so I was there for 3 days. What they ended up having to do, and I'll get to what they actually did to my prostate and everything here in a second. But they put this, not the usual catheter in, it had one more tube. And that tube was to introduce, I guess saline solution. I don't know if it's 100% saline, but it was saline solution, and they were flushing out, all the blood, and it just kept going. The blood was pretty intense. The bag was, it was it was a huge bag that they were collecting the pee in. And I didn't even think, because I kept wondering, later on I got smart, but I kept thinking, well, them pumping the saline solution in, I don't have to drink anything. Well, that was wrong. So after like the first day, I started getting really dehydrated and kind of nauseous at the same time. And so, here they are for almost 24 hours. They were just doing the irrigation part, where they were basically irrigating, the tissues that had been sewn together and all that. And to be honest with you, I was peeing blood, or my catheter had blood in it, almost continuously for that 24 hours until I got home, and then it kind of stopped. But not after like almost a half day or a day when I got home. But so what Dr. Patino did was absolutely amazing. I didn't have cancer at all, the doctor said after the fact. He said, given I had the other oncologist check to see if you had cancer in the prostate and in the bladder, and you're completely cancer-free in those two areas. Who knows what I've got elsewhere? But I think I'm pretty healthy, so no, see where I'm going. Isn't this beautiful? This is the park. I probably won't go across the street to the park. I'm just gonna kind of walk around. So let me tell you what a skilled prostate surgeon actually does. So his main goal was obviously your urethra, I guess your penis, completely separated, so he could do the work on the prostate and the bladder, and then they all come together. The urethra, the bladder, and the prostate all come together, when he's doing his work. It's robotic surgery. And the problem is that my prostate was 3 sizes that day. Or no, it was actually like 10 times too big. And so he took it down to a fairly normal size, and did all the work of closing it up, reattaching all the parts together. And he did an amazing job. Now just keep in mind, I always tell this was the hardest part for me after the surgery. Was I kept thinking, I'm going through all this. I really did. And it was very unsettling to me. But I kept worrying, because all along I kept taking these pee tests. They would take the catheter out. They would try to see if they would add liquid in there, and they would see if I could pee. All along I couldn't at all until the surgery. And then after the surgery, they had automatically put the catheter in, as I explained, because that catheter had 3 hoses, one to irrigate, And that thing was the biggest catheter of all. The tube was ginormous. And that took some time to heal after the fact, because I had that giant tube in my penis. So that took some time. But the whole thing was, I kept thinking, and almost like my life is over. You know how you feel when something that's important. And so again, I kept thinking all along, man, I'm not going to be able to pee, because I asked him that question. I said, what if we go through this surgery and I still can't pee? He said, that's a possibility. That happens sometimes. He says, we'll take care of you. And so all along, I took these pee tests, nothing. So then after the surgery, I had to wait a week. And by that time I was like, you're wanting to take this catheter out after less than a week. It was like, so I asked him, can at that point I wanted it out, but I wanted to make sure it was healing properly. So yeah, I'm a little short of breath because I'm not in as great a shape as I had been when I was making videos back in February. And so, I'm out, I'm at home, I'm healing, taking my ibuprofen and my aspirin every 6 hours, making sure I timed it exactly so I wouldn't be overtaking it. And, sitting around, I keep in mind with the catheter, you really can't do much. I did get out, drive with my wife, taking her places and stuff, but yeah, for the most part, I wasn't, I wasn't doing anything. So after the surgery, I go for my appointment with the doctor to, have him evaluate how it went and all that stuff. And I told him I was fine. I just said I was really anxious about taking this pee test. And so the guy, the tech, that would pull the catheter out, what an angel that dude was. That dude was so much better than everybody else. Normally when you pull a catheter out, it's kind of stingy, kind of painful. I didn't look forward to it ever being taken out and put back in. So I was a little bit nervous about this pee test. And he pulled it out. He says, okay, I'm gonna, give you a little bit of privacy. Here's the cup. He had inserted about, 200 cc's of saline, which was to fill up my bladder so that I would have the urge to pee. And dude, the minute he walked out the door and I put that cup under, still thinking I might not be able to pee, and I peed out that solution that he had put in me, completely put it into the cup. I had finally peed after all this time and could pee, and I cried like a little baby. Just enough until the tech walked in. He said, how'd it go? I showed him the pee. He was like, yes, that's amazing. And I said, yes, more so than you'll ever know. You take for granted peeing. You take for granted breathing. You take for granted the things in life that are normal to your body that you've been doing all your life. And so when I was able to pee, I couldn't tell you how happy and excited I was. Oh my gosh. All while, yeah, I'm a Christian man. So I thank God. And every time I peed, I thank God. still occasionally, I still think, oh my gosh, I couldn't pee. And I thank God, you know, to give me back something as fundamental in my life as that. So yeah, I get the catheter taken out, I can pee. I walked out of there. There was a long line, and I didn't have to be back till August. That was my next appointment, was in August. And so there was a line almost out the door. I mean, it was a huge line inside the medical office of people getting, you know, new appointments, follow-ups, and things like that. I was so happy. I walked out. I saw that line. I said, "Screw it. I'll just make an appointment some other time." Well, they had already made the appointment for August, so I've got an appointment in August. It's now July, and I know I haven't made a video in a while, but literally I couldn't. My video style here on this channel is to, and I'm pacing right now, sorry, but my video style is to, and look at this, look at the mountains. It's a beautiful day today. We were expected to get rain, didn't get a drop, but I always have to remember we're in the desert. So I bypassed that line, headed straight for In-N-Out, got me some food, drove home, ate it. I was so on top of the world. It was crazy. I felt like I just climbed Mount Everest and I made it to the top. That's how crazy that situation was. And so after that, you know, I got home. Oh, well, I texted my wife and I said, "I can pee." And she said, "Yay!" Because she actually, in the back of her mind, she thought I was going to have that catheter in for the rest of my life. Dr. Patino, I want to tell you thank you. He's at Las Vegas Urology here in town. And yeah, absolutely amazing. I could pee again. He had reduced it down. He did I guess part of his surgery including sparing my nerves so that I could still get an erection. I could still, believe it or not, I guess he says that I could eventually, I've been putting it off, but he says I could eventually have sex and that I would be able to feel the whole thing. I'd be able to, enjoy. And so that was genius, Dr. Patino. You had spared my nerves. And that the only thing was that he said that you'll have what's called retrograde ejaculation if I do have sex. And retrograde, I think that's the word. Ejaculation means that instead of ejaculating out of the penis, I ejaculate into my bladder. So it just pees out. So it's no big deal because I'm 65. I do not intend on having any children whatsoever at this point. I've already had my children and I'm completely happy that that was the only side effect out of this whole thing. Now, it has taken me an amazing, you basically, when you go in for robotic surgery, you end up with 5 or 6 holes that they actually put the robot into, and one is right next to the navel, your belly button. And so You know, the belly button was the worst because that one, the stitch actually popped a little bit, and I looked like the 5 bullet holes, including that was the biggest one, was the belly button. That's so the main viewing port can be inserted and go down, you know, through all the intestines and all that stuff and be able to do its work. Well, that one's still a mess. I still, right now as I'm walking, it's scraping on my clothing, and so it's a little uncomfortable. But I've gotten over that, dude. I'm going on a walk. I'm tired of that, and the weather is like, today's gonna be 116, I think, in Las Vegas, so I haven't been able to really walk once I got healed because it's too hot. Now, last year at this time, I did 100, 110, almost up to 120 I walked in because I was used to it. You know, I was climatized for it. Now, not climatized for it, so I hope you're sticking with me on this thing, but, you know, I got more to tell you. You know, if you want to know about the surgery and stuff, you know, ask me in the comments, I'll tell you. And it was painful. Once I got home, it was very painful because they kept me doped up pretty well. I was on the regular. I started getting off, and they started forgetting, and so I had to constantly remind them, you know, I need my meds, and it would go 1 to 2 hours. Now, it's not their fault. They're very busy. They're very loving, but they are very busy. They do a lot of work in hospitals. And so, you know, I didn't always get medications when I needed, but at that point, you know, the major pain had already subsided within a day, you know, and I'm still, you know, getting rid of all the crap from the surgery, the anesthesia, you know, and all of that. I'm recovering. I had really bad nausea on the last day, the third day in the hospital, and couldn't eat. I think I dropped like 15 pounds, I think. You know, between, not all at once, but 15 pounds that I'm down right now. Even before, when I was walking all the time, I lost about 15 pounds, which I've managed to keep off. And I'm telling you, what an amazing things that surgeons can do now. Patino, I love you, buddy. When I saw him, because I had to follow up shortly after surgery. It was like a week to get it taken out, and then I had another week before I could see Patino, and then at one point, because the stitch had bust in the navel, that I was a little concerned about it, so I wanted him to take a look at it. Yeah, I think he just laughed, kind of like, you big pussy, you know. In one stitch, here I am. He goes, I'm not worried about that stupid stitch on my belly button. He says, you know, that'll just repair itself. Just put a Band-Aid on it and go home and shut up. Kind of the way he looked at me. He said, I'm worried about the stitches on the inside. The ones that are holding all the parts together. So he just kind of laughed at me. He says, you're fine. He says, I'm only concerned, do you feel like you're having anything on the inside that might be busted? And I said, absolutely not. I said, you did an amazing job. And I'm proud of him. You know, the guy goes to school to learn how to do these things, goes through hundreds, thousands of these things maybe, and he did an amazing job with me. Do I feel when I'm walking around or moving the stitches pulling inside? Yeah, I do. And does it still burn when I pee? Yes, it still burns when I pee. And that's because, you know, you get liquid with salts and stuff like that. And as they pee out, you know, you still have these, you know, repairing the exposed nerves and things like that as they're healing. So, sorry, I'm pacing. Because I found a place that has shade, so I'm pacing. I'm not walking, but I got to get back to used to walking, get back to my normal routine. I usually do 2 miles to 3 miles almost every single day. Maybe not on the weekend, but usually either Saturday or Sunday I walk. And right now it's just so hot that I'm out, and I wanted to tell this story. I want to get back into talking about things that are important to people over 65. And for men, having prostate surgery is a real possibility. You know, it was funny when I had the catheter put in the very first time, and I was actually in pretty good spirits. I thought I would have that catheter taken out within a couple of days. So I was still in pretty good spirits. Found out that I had to keep it in for months before my surgery. And the guy that was in the room with me, he was a young man, had a catheter put in. For whatever reason, I don't know, but I'm thinking to myself, man, he was young. He was in his early 20s. He was driving me crazy with his girlfriend, or his wife. You know, she came once with their child, and I enjoyed having them there. I enjoyed my family. My daughter came, my wife came. You know, and then when this last surgery, my daughter and my wife came, and you know, to the hospital. I think my daughter was a little concerned, but you know, she was always there to offer me, you know, can I help you with this? Can I go get you real food instead of hospital food? My loving daughter was there. My wife, same way. She worries about me in a different way. But my daughter, you know, she's my daughter. She worries about me because I'm her dad. And you know, it's I got something in my eye. So I'm out with all the pollen right now. Check out again, this is the mountain that I love looking at. I want to climb up to the top of that mountain right there. There's kind of ways, like that little path I think you can take up. But I think the main path up to the top is on the other side. I've climbed a few mountains here in Las Vegas. Las Vegas and Nevada itself is a very mountainous state. So you get a lot of surrounding mountains. But, you know, in other words, to finish things up, 6 months probably has gone by since I did my last video. Only because I really couldn't. The catheter was near impossible to walk. I mean, I could walk, but for any length it started rubbing, and so it would get very uncomfortable. So I had that going, couldn't do anything. So it's just been recently. I feel great, but I still have that belly button scratching going on, and I still feel like sometimes that my stitches and stuff that I had are healed, but they say that after 3 months it should be healed. Well, it's been 3 months since my surgery. July the 20th, I was completely, the stitches and everything were completely healed. And I haven't been back to the doctor. What else happened to me during that time was, because I just gotten the catheter taken out, I was able to walk a little bit, still very painful to walk, but I still wanted to kind of move. You know, they always say that walking is the best thing for you after surgery. So I started walking. Well, I got really tired, just kind of, you know, I've got 100% more strength than I did then. So I sat in the park that I live in. We have a little tiny park and pool and all that stuff. It's really nice. And when I sat down at that bench later that night, I started getting these welts on the back of my legs. Literally the chiggers or no-see-ums or whatever they were started biting me while I was sitting there. I felt like I had bitten by a snake. I had gotten bitten so many times, and all the bites started welling up, got really huge. So I started taking antihistamine. I started taking, putting the anti-itch cream on so that it would start getting better. And then shortly after that, I don't know if it was because, I'd been laying around all the time. I sat on the couch and watched TV 90% of the time and slept the rest in bed. But I'd got a pinched nerve on this side, my right side. I Googled it or ChatGPT'd it, and because of the description, I had numbness and couldn't lift my right arm. And it was my C6 vertebrae. My C6 vertebrae had pinched. And so I had numbness. I could barely lift my right arm. And these are all things, except for the bites. Anybody gets bites. But yeah, so I had this pinched nerve, and I'm still recovering from that. I think I'm because that's been about a month. It's completely healed, but I have a little tenderness in my forearm. So the way I knew it was the C6 was the way it was actually, where it was actually the numbest, and that was my forefinger and my thumb. You get a lot of people walking down, the street. Hello. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things that I knew what I had, and so I went to a physiatrist or a sports medicine doctor, and she said, yeah, that's common. So she gave me some medicine. It's being healed right now. That was another pain in the butt. I couldn't even lift a coffee cup with that pinched nerve. It's pretty well healed now. And I can actually, have feeling to my forefinger and thumb. Still have a bit of tenderness in my, wrist. You can feel the tenderness. And, that's pretty well recovered. So in fact, I went back to the sports medicine doctor, and she said that's fine. She gave me enough medication in case it happened again, or if it's still happening. She wanted to do an MRI. I said at this point, I think I could better use a physical therapist. So I thought I could use this. So I'm waiting on insurance to approve that, and once I get that approved, then I can start going for physical therapy and hopefully regain all of the strength. I have about 85 to 90% use and feeling in my right arm. Praise God, it wasn't a stroke. It was something simple that would just need to heal. And so that's what's been going on since February, since I did my last video. I kind of wanted to, document it, get this down, that it was a real turning point in my life. I can pee like a young schoolboy right now. And that's amazing. I pee like I've never peed since I was young. Pretty much through my 40s and 50s, it started to really slow down. And they kept telling me, here's the thing. The PSA test, the I guess whatever the PSA levels are. And I was in the 16s up to that point when they finally checked me and my PSA levels. And that usually means that it's cancerous. And so every time I went to the doctor and they saw my PSA level, they were like, aren't you afraid this is going to, be cancerous and you could die? Not me. No, not me. I didn't worry about it. And for years and decades goes by and I do nothing. I am the kind that, waits till it becomes really serious and then I go get help. Not anymore. I turned 65 in June and now I have full Medicare. I didn't do the Medicare where, I'm on some type of community plan or whatever you call it. I took full out Medicare and got a supplement plan. And so now I think the most I have to pay out is like $280 a year for any service that I do. I picked N, in case you guys know anything about. Most people take it to where, they don't worry about co-pays and things like that. Well, I took the N one because it was saving me probably $60 a month, taking the N plan for the supplement. And that saved me like $60 a month. Well, I have to pay $20 copay, and that's pretty much, I guess, forever. Who knows? I don't know much about it. And then I had to pay $50 for emergency room visits. So if I go to the emergency room, I have to pay them $50. If I go to a doctor, it costs me $20. And so I may not be saving anything probably this year because I plan on going to a lot of doctor appointments this year. I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm going to get myself 100%. So I got things like, I got a stupid fly bothering the shit out of me because I'm perspiring. And so, I'm going to go to an allergy doctor. I'm going to go to a skin doctor. I'm going to go to an ENT. I want them to, because I can't breathe very well out of one of my nostrils, because I used to fight a lot as a kid. Love to fight. Don't do it anymore. As an adult, I haven't physically fought anyone since I was in my 20s and teens. And so yeah, I want him to do that where they reset it or break it and fix it. And it's the minimal invasive one. They're not going in there and having surgery. They're going to give me the twilight medicine. So if I hear the crackling and all that stuff, I'll just go, whoa. So yeah, I want to get a lot of medical work done. I want to be, it's not going to be like it was, I hope. I hope the minute that I have something wrong that I immediately go to either the doctor or to emergency. Why not, right? Why not? Because I was always afraid of, especially from hospitals. Dude, you go in, next thing you know, especially if you spend the night, it's $50,000. I still owe, because they reduced it down. They reduced it down to, I think, like $5,000 from 50. Don't ask me why. I don't think it was from my insurance, because I had catastrophic insurance, basically, is what I picked the wrong insurance on the health market. Man, what Obama did to our health system was absolutely horrific. Obama has to go down as one, and it's not because I'm racist, I promise you. I love people of all colors, faiths. I do. Not a racist bone in my body. I love people, and that's it. But Obama will have to go down as one of the worst presidents. Now, I'm not going to tell you whether I'm Republican or Democrat, because if I just told you that and you find out I'm a Democrat, you know, you'll call me a traitor or whatever. You know, and that's your problem, not mine. I just feel like Obama's totally screwed up the health insurance, and he's got his name on it, Obamacare. That will have to go down as one of the most destructive healthcare problems in this country. I remember having great insurance. I didn't have to worry about, I could just go, you know, to any doctor that I wanted. You know, I paid my thing. And so I think I'm rambling now. But I just kind of wanted to tell you why I was out for 6 months. And that I'm becoming so much better. So much better and so much healthier. And I think my life, as far as my prostate is concerned, that problem's gone. You know, I still feel the twinges when I get up. My stomach feels a little tight. But other than that, you know, and then my belly button itches all the time. So I kind of just press on it. I don't scratch it. I kind of just press on it, and that kind of goes away for a while. So you learn these little things. I became a plumbing mechanic when they put the catheter in. I came up with all these different ways of making sure that it hurt less. And in fact, when I went in, they always said, well, why do you have one here and here? And I said, because one actually keeps the hose from moving, and one keeps it locked in place, because they only usually put one lock on the hose. So, and that's really so that if it does, it's not pulling on the tube that's going into your penis. So I became really good. If you ever have a catheter put in, comment, because if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, having a catheter is absolutely horrific. It is. But comment, and I can show you a way. Now, I'm not an expert. This is all for entertainment. If you do comment, though, I will answer you. And I will answer you to the best of my abilities. But I'm telling you, I found ways of fixing that catheter. I had to use 2 locks, and it has to go in a certain direction. That I learned. But is it still a miserable thing? Yeah. It was still very miserable. So I'm going to wrap this up. This has been, probably a 20-minute video. I didn't intend it to be a 20-minute video, but I did kind of want to tell you what's going on in the last 6 months. And that if you suffer from these things, you're not alone. Comment if you've had your prostate surgery. Comment if you've had no-see-ums bite the crap. We used to, in the Army, the dog collars that protect against fleas and stuff like that. And we had to wear our boots bloused in the Army. We had green fatigues and boots, usually jump boots. And we would blouse, with these little rubber things that would keep them bloused. Well, chiggers used to get in between there, out in the field in Fort Hood. So we started wearing dog collars. I came up with the idea. I said, I'm going to go buy some dog collars. And sure enough, the rest of the time. Now, was that healthy? Yeah, because I had them on my sock, but could that medicine seep into the sock and then into my, yeah, probably. But it solved an immediate problem. And you don't think about the things that could go wrong. This is our little park. There's a pool. There's a pool back here. A nice little gazebo. some grass that they try to save. And right back there is that dang notorious bench where I got the chiggers. I should tell them that there's an infestation back there, but I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, I'm doing better. And I hope you watch these videos in the future. I've got a lot of videos on confidence and things like that in 60s. But again, in June, I just turned 65, so I'm still kind of a young pup. Still healthy. Just got to get past the medical problems. Look. Little puppy. Little puppy. I used to bring my puppy here. Hello. How are you? Hi, puppy. Yeah, I used to bring my puppy here all the time when he was deaf, blind. Poor dog. And insane. So we ended up having to put him down because we couldn't see him suffering anymore. I used to bring him down here a lot, let him just wander, but he would go one direction, had no idea where he was going. Then I turned him around, he would go one other direction. And then I turned him around, he'd go in one other direction. But I wanted him to have a little bit of, kindness. Hey, mister. Oh, he ran off from me. Normally they stop and look and talk to me. At least it feels like they're talking to me. And I promise I'm not nuts. I haven't gone insane. But I have heard that hummingbirds will look at you. And they do. I have them come up to me all the time. So anyway, I thank you so much for hearing my crazy story. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, please let me know. Well, one nice thing was when I did go into this hospital, they only asked for a $1,300 check, which covered 100% of it. So that was kind of nice. I wrote one check and I was done. But I still have medical bills that I have to pay. It's usually like $500 here, $250 here. And man, I just don't feel like paying. But I will. I have an obligation. I'm going to pay it. The doctors are good. The hospitals are great. They have to pay their staffs. Anyway, that's my story. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll be making videos more regular now because I'm going to be out and walking, getting better. Still not 100%, but I am better than I have been, especially even before the pee problem. I had that prostate that was just ginormous, and it was eventually going to seal, and it did. And I could have done it a lot quicker and a lot. So I don't blame the staff, the fact that it happened and I didn't go into surgery in like a month and a half. So I'm not blaming anyone for that. I did. Sorry I did. I'm not going to edit it out because that's how I felt. But I do feel at this point that, that they did an amazing thing, and I've got nobody to blame but for myself. So thank you so much for listening. Tune in for more. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things at 65. One of the things I'll be talking about is Medicare. If you're not on Medicare yet, maybe it'll help a little bit. If you're already on Medicare, we'll talk about things about that. But we'll talk about all things that face in 65. I'm telling you what, I'm not where I was before the surgery, before February, because I was in great shape. 2 miles a day, could walk through any weather, was happy to walk through any weather. I had my little scarf that had, that was retained water and coolness. and that helped a lot. But yeah, I'm gonna be walking more now. I got to get back into walking. I haven't done anything for the last 6 months, and my body feels like it. I get more aches, joint pains and things like that, but when I walk, I don't. You know, people think it's the opposite. You walk, you're gonna have joint pains and things like that. No. You need to get out and move around, and walking is the #1 way. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it. This video has already gone 55 minutes. So if you've gone this long watching me, maybe there's something wrong with you. I love you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can get my videos brought to you. And love you guys, and take care. Thank you so much.